It's finally here, the Assetto Corsa Evo Early Access. Well, sort of. I'll get to what I mean by that in just a bit. But we can drive now, for the first time for ourselves, in AC Evo's Early Access program. And it's important to note that it is Early Access. There are gonna be problems, there are gonna be bugs, I'm gonna show you a little bit later. And well, also this game isn't optimized well at the moment. And that's because it's an early access, and I think it's just, there will be a lot of work that has to go into this to be able to get it to a point where it can release, both in terms of bugs, performance, and also the content. But we'll get into all of those details in a little bit. For now, just letting you know that early access is available to buy on Steam for about 32 euros, I think it was. So I think quite reasonable. It's definitely not worth it for what's in it right now, but you get all of the stuff and the full release for that price, so you don't have to pay anything extra. If you buy in early, you actually save some money. But yeah, what is it like? So I've been playing for about an hour now, and I just want to share my first impressions here, because I think it's important to get a first look at this and just see what the state is, so that if you haven't bought it yet, that you can make a decision on that. And if you have, then also very much feel free to share your experiences in the comment section. I would love to hear from you what your experiences are. For me, the first thing I had to do was fiddle with the in-game settings, like you do. Not a big deal normally. And actually the steering wheel settings were kind of straightforward. I haven't done much there, just some basic settings. But the big problem for me was graphics settings. And by the way, you can see here, the first thing I did after setting all that up was taking this VW Golf onto Laguna Seca. Yeah, graphics settings. So for me, on my system, which I know isn't the most powerful, and I'm also recording and playing the game at a 1440p resolution. If you're interested in what system exactly I'm running, it's down in the comments, so you can take a look. Not in the comments, in the info description section. So it's basically a 3060 Ti and an AMD 5800X, I think. But yeah, check the description if you're interested what exactly I'm running. And I'm actually having a lot of trouble with performance at the moment. I was only able to get the game to run stable above 60 frames a second while recording. That's important to know. With medium settings and setting DLSS to performance mode. And I have to say, I mean, judge for yourself, but to me it doesn't look great. And that might be because of my graphic settings, just in general, just on medium, and I also turned down some settings even further. Or maybe it's the DLSS on performance. It kind of looks blurry, mushy in a way. I'm not quite sure what exactly it is, but it doesn't look very crisp to me. Especially if you take a look at things further in the distance or the road and side textures. There's something off to me. Like the car, the interior looks good in my eyes, and also some of the other details in the environment look pretty good, but it just overall looks not that sharp to me, and yeah, quite blurry. As I said, maybe just a DLSS, not quite sure, but yeah, at the moment at least, I think the game isn't very well optimized at the moment. So on my system, even though it's well above the recommended specs, it still doesn't run very well, I have to say. But yeah, as I said, also 1440p resolution with a 21:9 monitor, so it has to render quite a bit more, and also recording at the same time, so that also takes a lot of strain on my system. But yeah, that out of the way, as I said, graphics wise, there is definitely some improvements to make. We'll have to see if maybe I can also find some better settings. If you have any suggestions of what you maybe found out, what works well, definitely let me know. But yeah, driving wise, which is to me more important. I mean, performance obviously I want improved, but how does it drive? And for just picking it up and just trying it out, it feels actually kind of good. I mean, there are definitely some things that I would attribute to driving non-race cars at the moment. I mean, this car, even though I think I put on some better tires, that's the only thing I was able to do, it still doesn't drive like a race car. Obviously, because it isn't one. I'm also still trying to figure out if I can really lean into the ABS, which sometimes it seems like it's working quite well, and sometimes it just, like, I start to slide even while braking in a straight line. So that's just something that I have to figure out for myself. But in general, it felt good to drive. It felt natural and definitely fun to me. And also, as I said, haven't done much in terms of my wheel settings with force feedback. Just basically took my ACC settings and took something that seemed reasonable to me in the in-game settings. But yeah, I'm gonna show you in a bit what I'm running in-game, so if you're interested. But I wouldn't copy that right now because, as I said, still very early days and I really haven't fiddled with it much. Other thing that is, I think, noteworthy to talk about is the sound, which I feel is quite good. It like sounds nice to me. I'm not like super excited about the sound at the moment. Also, I feel like if you maybe noticed when driving next to the pit wall, the sound changes, but not in a way that I would expect. It just sounds louder and like, not quite sure. I think they nailed this way more in ACC, but this is an early access title. Things can definitely still change, so we'll have to wait and see where we go. Another thing to note before we jump into something else here is the UI. Because I'm running on a widescreen monitor, I had to change things, and I sadly have to change this apparently every time I load up into a session because it doesn't save. So all the UI elements might change positions slightly because I have to move them manually. At least you can do that. You can just use your mouse and drag them around, but yeah, it's one thing to note that on a wider monitor you will have to do that every time at the moment because it doesn't save. But yeah, this was my practice session, and well, I just was still getting to grips with both driving it and also just figuring out just looking at the environment, seeing like graphics wise. I mean, maybe you were able to see some graphics glitches as well already, and I think even here in the replay you can see the silhouette of the car. There's some weird like ghosting effect going on. I'm not quite sure what that is. So yeah, definitely some improvements to be made here, either in my settings or just in the graphics engine. And I think Kunos will definitely improve on all of these things. But, well, enough of me rambling on all of these things. We're gonna talk a little bit more about what I feel like about the driving for my first impressions. But for now, let's take a look at what actually is all in early access at the moment. So here we are in the main menu. Sorry for it being cut off a little bit. As I said, 21:9 monitor, and for some reason some of the menus just go wider than the usual 16:9 that they always did, and like some of the menus still apply just in a 16:9 in the middle so that you can see it properly. But yeah, just apologies for that. Here you can see this is just the basically single player mode where you can pick between practice session and quick race, where you can also adjust some things. We're going to take a look at that in a little bit in more detail. Here are all the tracks. We already knew that these were in, but like to my surprise, there are different variants for some of those, like Brands Hatch Indy, Suzuka East and West. So there is a little bit more than I was expecting in terms of track variety, and more is gonna come definitely. Here's the list of cars that I can choose at the moment, and it's actually smaller than we were expecting, and that is due to a problem that they're having right now. We are currently only in offline mode, and for some reason the servers don't work properly, and in offline mode you can only play with the starter cars. You can't even buy additional cars. By the way, here also some of the other menus like the assists. These are my settings currently. They might change in the future, but just take a look at what you can change here. But yeah, we are still limited to even less cars than we were promised with the 20 cars. We can't buy any cars at the moment. Also special events, nothing going on there at the moment. You're gonna see in the vehicles tab here, normally there would be the dealership. You can't access that because we are in offline mode. So hopefully that will be sorted out quite soon. Kunos already acknowledged that and said that they are working on the issue. So hopefully we'll get there. So right now we just have a few of the starter cars available. Also cannot do the Academy, which is the license test, where you can, well, basically drive sections of a track and get to know the car and the track combination. So definitely something I'm very interested in. Can't check it out right now. You were able to see the driver, what you can do there. I haven't changed anything because in offline mode I'm not quite sure if that's really worth it. And well, some of the other options are also not available. Speaking of options, here are the controls. On the right you can see my settings at the moment for my wheel. It's also sadly a little bit cut off, but yeah, it's nothing special, just 900 degrees of steering lock like on my wheel. FFB gain I have on 55% at the moment and my wheel at 100. And that's basically everything. I don't think I changed much else there. Graphic settings, another big thing here. As I said, I have to run DLSS and I have to run it on performance. So that might be why the game doesn't look that great on my system at the moment. Might also be some other issues, I don't know. The rest, I basically took the medium preset and lowered some of the settings like shadows and motion blur and the mirror quality, because I thought those would probably have the biggest effect, and I noticed some FPF gains there. Yeah, the audio settings, nothing special I guess, and in the gameplay and HUD sections you can't even change much. HUD is even completely unavailable at the moment. So yeah, early access, still quite bare bones, and that's to be expected. So I didn't expect this to like be a full game. You shouldn't either. It's definitely a work in progress, and yeah, as I said before, not really worth the money at the moment, I would say. But what it gives you, if you're interested in helping the developers getting the game to a state where it is worth the money, then you can buy in now and basically test the game and give feedback, and I'm also obviously gonna do that, and well, then make the game better for everyone else that is waiting, both people that are just waiting because they just want to see what it's like, and also people that are on console maybe. I know there are quite a few of you that are not playing on PC and will have to wait for the console version. So yeah, that's why I'm also making this video, just to let you know what my initial thoughts are and that you get a little bit of an idea. And then also I will obviously, once we get into, well, more stuff that's added content wise and also maybe some fixes, I will try to report on those as I'm able to. Now we're gonna jump into a quick race, and I did take the Ford Escort Cosworth, and yeah, just thought that's maybe a nice thing, nice change of pace. There, as I said, weren't any options for race cars, so we'll have to do with this. Here you can see the adjustments that you can make for this car in fine-tuning. Interestingly, different tire compounds. I this time just stuck with the road compound. I don't have any clue if this is like if you should change to the others or what's going on. And by the way, what's going on? This is what happened when I started my race, and yeah, I fell through the floor. And also, at the same time, my wheel went crazy. I was lucky that I didn't have my hands on the wheel. I might have broken something, even though I have a low-powered wheelbase. Still, I was like kind of afraid that something might happen. And that is what you have to expect. Sadly, it's an early access title, so we will have bugs. That's just the name of the game. But I was able to load back in and eventually got this race underway. And well, here we are. And well, this time I did take a different starting position because I thought maybe that was the problem. Maybe that starting position was kind of bugged and made me fall made me fall through the floor. Not quite sure, but yeah, this time it worked, and we were just racing against AI. You were able to see the settings that I used were just default. I didn't want to change anything there for my first race against AI, and I just wanted to see what this is like. And well, did get off to a very great start here, and well, this car definitely feels quite a lot different than the VW Golf did, even though it's still quite a low-powered car. It's also not really a race car, but it's definitely a nice change of pace, and definitely also something I needed to get used to, as you'll be able to see. But yeah, once again, if you take a look at the graphics, if you take a look at the car in particular, or the bridge here in front of me, I think that looks quite good. It's just some other things that just feel very blurry and mushy to me. Yeah, let me know in the comments if you feel that's the same, or maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. I'm not quite sure. Like, the game, I think, can look quite good here, and like in some situations it looks really nice, but I don't know, something is off for me. But yeah, driving wise, once again, this car felt quite nice to handle. I mean, it's a road car. It's normally not supposed to be on a racetrack like this, I guess, but I think this one works even better than the VW Golf did, and yeah, just felt very natural to get into. One thing that you may notice in the HUD, if you take a look at the bottom right, you will be able to see my acceleration and braking inputs. I'm not using a clutch and shifter at the moment, only have a sequential shifter anyway, so it's not really a fair thing to put in here. I may use that in the future, we'll have to see. But what you also can see is the assists that are on this car. I wasn't able to deactivate them or change them in any way. I would guess that you will be able to change them for race cars at least, but in this one TC and traction control I think were on by default. Or no, traction control actually no, as you can see it says TC 0, but ABS 1, so basically on. By the way, here I decided, like, I'm not gonna try to chase the one guy that is in front, but actually wanted to let people past and swerve to the left in the wrong moment, and yeah, one of the AI hit me directly in the back, but yeah, doesn't matter. I just wanted to see what the AI was like, and if you can actually have a nice fight with them. You'll be able to see that yes, you can sometimes, and it's something that I will have to experiment with more. But yeah, overall felt kind of nice, I have to say, overall. But yeah, it's just first impressions. You can also see in the bottom left that position is updating quite late, and also the delta to the guys in front and in the back don't really change. I'm not quite sure when those update, so something is also not really working there. And once again, if you take a look at the bottom right, you can see that at least in the HUD it looks like that my tires are super inflated, so maybe just way too much pressure. I didn't change anything. I mean, I could have, but I didn't want to for this first one. Not quite sure why the default here is basically completely overinflated, but yeah, something to definitely figure out in the future. You can also hear at least a little bit that I think this time the pit wall sound is a little bit better. So the echo that you get from there, and yeah, overall also I think this car sounds quite nice. Not quite sure if it's super realistic, would need to listen to some onboards with this car, but I think it's fitting for a car of this age to yeah, sound like this. But yeah, maybe that's just neither here nor there, I guess. So you can see a little bit of fighting going on here with the AI, and also since I'm still trying to get used to braking points and how much I need to brake or even can brake in this car, still getting some side-to-side action with the guy in front. Definitely there is not a lot of variety in cars at the moment, as I said. So, as I said, was only able to drive these basically lower powered entry-level cars. I would be very interested to see what it is like when we get to drive actual race cars. But at the moment I can't. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow. Depends on how fast Kunos is with fixing this. And here you can see when you're fighting against AI, they actually just take their line. And maybe I also just didn't leave them enough space here. And I think they just hit me a little bit in the rear and just spun me around, or at least pushed me off track, because I wasn't able to turn in for the corner. But once again, wasn't too unhappy about this. It's also something to figure out, just to see what it's like. And also now I have a little bit more of a driver field to, see that I can maybe catch up. I think I did take about 20 drivers for this race. You can go up a little higher. I think it was 30 with AI. Also something that might change, obviously. But I did notice a big performance decrease with the amount of AI that I put in. It might also be because it's a different track. Not quite sure. Again, something to really experiment with. And yeah, as I said, there will be a lot of things that will change, and hopefully for the better. I have high hopes for Kunos. I think they have a good track record of, well, having early access titles that have problems in the beginning but fixing them over time. So, but yeah, as I said before, if you're on the fence, definitely no shame in just waiting and seeing what it's going to be like. But yeah, I think that basically wraps up my thoughts, my initial thoughts on the early access. As I said, I've only played for about an hour now. There's definitely more to explore, but until they have fixed the server issues, we won't be able to do much else, and even then we will just be able to drive some more cars and maybe experience some of the other features like buying cars and the driving academy, for example. When I get to do those, I will try to get them to you in a video. But yeah, for now, my initial thoughts, I would say, are it definitely needs some work, especially performance-wise, but the driving already feels quite nice, and I have high hopes that we will have a great sim racing title on our hands in, well, sometime this year. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. If you're still waiting, what do you think? What are you waiting for? And if you have already tried it, if you also jumped into the early access right away, let me know what your experiences are. I would really love to hear that. If you're interested to see more AC Evo content in the future, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button while you're at it. That would really help me out. But yeah, that's it from me. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and so I would like to thank you a lot for watching. I've been HG Racing, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.